Hi, welcome to my video. This is Truedivine and you're catching me, Jennifer Roberts. This is part of the free content that I put out on a daily basis to help support, guide and inspire those who need to be, want to be supported, guided and inspired. All of the messages are general, so take what resonates, leave the rest behind. It's easy to bend a reading to your will, but if it doesn't resonate with you, and by resonate I mean that vibration, that hum, the same hum that you get from Mother Earth, you know, it really connects with something within you. So when I say resonate, I don't say that lightly. Take what resonates with you and leave the rest behind. So this is for the 6th of September 2020. Okay, so difficult energies, which is to be expected. I think a lot of people had a heads up or an intuition that, you know, September, October in particular was going to get pretty difficult as far as the pressures, the games that are being played on the stage, the powers that be. So there's a lot of build up to that energy, I feel, this week. And so it's not a shock to many, as many seem to have this intuition, including myself, that things would get a bit sticky, a little bit difficult. But I think even more people than had the intuition accept that things cannot go on as they were. Things cannot continue to be allowed to go on as they were and have been. It was never going to be easy. Big transitions like this are not easy. The only way to make them feel easy is by doing the very thing that got us collectively into this mess, into such abusive systems and powers that be in the few, is complacency. Because easy is made as a gift. And that's with the Seven of Pentacles. It's on the bottom of the deck. Now for me today, it's that gift, that inheritance type energy. But it's not a gift in a good way. It's a gift for the short term. And I think a lot of us collectively have kept, over the generations after generations, have kept accepting these gifts, these inheritances, these lands to placate. And that is what has got us under such stringent control now that a man or woman cannot stand and speak their truth. That censorship is favorable to the few, that they have such constraints under the guise of freedom. And so the ideas of systems, yes, some of them may need to stay, but true reforming and the right people leading those systems, i.e. social services, the childcare system, the charities, making sure a charity is a charity and not a cover-up for something else. That's what we need to do to be reforming the systems, not just tearing them down, because structure is good to an extent, to a great extent, but structure led by the right people, for the people. So that's the energy of the Seven of Pentacles today on the bottom of the deck. And that in itself feels like a reading. That in itself energetically is a bit, whew, you know, it takes you away, it takes you back. And the energy today, I'll be honest, has got me a little bit overwhelmed in a great way. 1 minute feeling really excited, and then the next minute feeling just like something's coming. So it has got me very contemplative, wanting to do things at the same time. It's very scattered but powerful energy. And I suppose it depends which one you hook into, which will determine how you get through September and October. So the first card on the deck eventually, is the Seven of Swords. Now this Seven of Swords, it's kept coming up, and it's been an underlying energy of they're leaving two swords there, or this person, On the stage, collectively, systems, you know, big game players, big chess players. In your individual lives as well, you know, certain individuals around you, certain individuals around your loved ones. You're starting to see through the fact, but it's still difficult to pinpoint because it's sneaky. Look, it's tiptoey, and they're leaving two swords behind. So you don't even know you're getting stolen from when you're getting stolen from. You don't know when somebody's stripping you of your thoughts, of your designs, of your ideas, of your imagination. Especially for business people. A lot of people are trying to find different ways to build small business. And, you know, ideas are ideas, and they're often felt collectively, or a few individuals will find the same idea, and that's fine. But the way they produce it would be different, the way they work towards it would be different. So all of that is thoughtful energy, intellect. So things like that getting stolen, don't just think of the physical things. Think more of also your power. Your knowledge is power. And so, you know, the more stripping of the knowledge, i.e. particularly from the powers that be to the collective stage, or the more stripping of the knowledge in an individual, in your own life, is going to leave you with less imagination, with less drive. So to look out for that, and it's hard to accept, especially for those close around us, but you know, it's something that needs to be accepted and seen and then dealt with. And so the Fool is reversed to clarify this Seven of Pentacles. So this speaks of, you know, a delirium, living in a dream world, making mistakes because of that, trusting in other people rather than trusting in yourself. So it speaks of, you know, really just putting your head in the sand and not wanting to accept that these energies are above and around and below us. And it's a period of refinement. It's a period of, you know, shining those diamonds, those inner demons, rather than building upon them. And that's not easy. And so the second card is the Five of Cups. And so you can see that makes sense from the two energies in the first two cards there. The Three Cups are spilt out in front of this man, and he's got his shoulders hunched over, and he's in a dark cloak. He's got his head down in a very depressive position. And so in his arms right flat, you know, he doesn't want to move. He's almost afraid to kick over another cup. He's so entrenched in emotions with these cups that have spilt here. So the disappointment that you might feel, either from the stage, the collective stage, or in the powers that be, or the individuals in your life, you know, there's upset, there's despair, because there's a certain knowledge, a certain acceptance of these energies around you. But if you turned around, there's two cups standing upright. Is divine masculine, is divine feminine, is balance, is duality, anything that those cups figure out for you. But they've got enough in them both to take him forward in a balanced way. These cups here today, you know, is the period of refinement. There are going to be some things that we have to strip away. There are going to be some things that we have to let go of emotionally, and be more balanced emotionally with the two here. And so to clarify, that is the Seven of Cups, but the Seven of Cups is in reverse. And so this speaks of, you know, projects and designs having some movement with them. You know, there's not as much confusion, there's not as much waiting around to act on them. So there's some kind of movement. And so don't be surprised today, for the better or worse, if we see more news about certain movements, about certain good marches with genuine people, or about certain, you know, not so good marches with not so genuine groups that really are political groups. And so look out for that today also. Movement in your individual lives, in your family life, in that, you know, you might You might be losing some relatives, you might be losing the people closest to you, some of them anyway, because there's just no frequency match. There's been a lot of irritation over the last few months. So that, of course, that could be difficult, but it causes some kind of movement in your emotional sphere. And so the Hierophant is in reverse. And so where this speaks to society, it speaks to these energies that I'm reading today, the energies that we're feeling so much, speak of it being widespread. There's a wave of people starting to see that something's up here, something's not quite right here. And so it does speak also, though, to being so insecure right now, being so much in despair right now for a lot of people. You might be influenced to be too kind, or look at that gift, particularly from political parties, look at that gift again. Is it too good to be true? Is it too kind? I know that's off the wall for this card, but that's what it's feeling like. It does speak to a weakness also, in that, again, the too kind part of that card, and with the energies that we're feeling and the things that might unfold today or tomorrow, might make us insecure enough to reach out to any group, to feel like we belong, to feel like if at least we're in a group fighting for something, then we're a bit more safe. It's a human instinct to do that. It would seem as if it was planned or something, so that you try not to be too weak to join in other people's movements, because you might not know where those movements really derive from, what the motives behind those movements really started off from, and what they are now. And so the Lovers card is also in reverse. And I checked through this deck afterwards, because this is a lot of reversals, but this is the day that it is. And the deck is completely normal. There's more upright cards than there are reversals. And so the Lovers card in reverse speaks to failure to make decisions, clear decisions, failure to make balanced decisions. But it feels like a lot of people today, instead of using the Five of Cups in the best way, and turning around and being in balanced emotion with these two of Cups behind him, because of that, it leads to the fact that they find it difficult to make clear decisions. And so they're not making decisions from a balanced emotional state. And so be aware of that within yourself and within those around you, if you try and understand why somebody's acted a certain way, particularly if they're very close to you. It speaks of a separation. And so I think this is partly why the energies feel so heavy today, in that it is sad that a lot of people are starting to see a little bit like oil and water, that the water, is very clearly lined off by the oil. A lot of people have found a way, and this is making people no better or no worse, it just is. A lot of people during this 7 months have found a way to refine themselves, to release themselves, and raise in frequency, even though things have been tough. It's almost like a lot of people like that have taken the game on board and raised their frequency and met the challenge. They've challenged themselves. But it also feels like the water has, sunk. The oil's obviously just on top, but there's a separation, in that a lot of people have not been able to channel their emotions during this period, rather than their emotions channeling them channeling their emotions. So there's going to be a lot of people noticing that those that they care about most have lowered in frequency during this time, that they haven't quite been able to keep the grit for long enough. It might be that you are coming across more people, if it hasn't affected you in your own family, more people are knowing of a family today of people that have committed suicide, because during this time their frequencies have been lowered, and there's been deliberate things during this time to lower as many frequencies as possible. Because in a lowered frequency, we find it hard to make decisions for ourselves. In our lower frequency, we find it hard to fight against a system that hides knowledge, hides spiritual knowledge in particular, limits how much we can use our intuitive powers of healing, with plant healing, with energy healing. So it's difficult to channel emotions when you're having a very particularly collective emotional time. It's difficult to do that under all of those pressures and mounting pressures from external forces. And so I'm sorry for anybody who is grieving for a relative, or just grieving at the fact that they're reading stories of somebody losing a relative due to suicide. That it's not a pleasant thing at all. It's not a pleasant energy to feel at all. But even for the people that haven't gone through that, but have noticed that they've managed to raise their frequency during this time, but they do have loved ones that have struggled to do so, that's a very difficult position to be in. It's difficult enough being the person that is in the lower frequency and that is finding it hard to have clarity and make clear decisions and feel sovereign and divine. But it's also difficult for the relative or friend that is the onlooker of that, because you can't raise their frequency for them. You can alleviate things a little bit, but you can't raise their frequency for them. That has to come from them. And it is a difficult process, and it's been deliberately made more difficult. And so that's happening. And it's something that needs to be talked about, because we don't want people not being able to cope with that on either side. We don't want more people having to drop their frequency because they can't talk about it. They don't know how to verbalize it, that it's difficult to see this separation. It's difficult to see this attack happen when you can see what's happening. And so it's a hard energy to navigate, whatever end of the spectrum you're on today. I don't know what particularly is so powerful about today. I'll have to look at the planetary alignments. I'll have to check in with the Leo King and Muruma too. They're the two that I really appreciate. So I'll have to check in with what they're saying today, because it feels heavy on either end of the spectrum for varying reasons. So it does feel powerful, but it feels very heavy. And I think it's important when energies feel like that, that we express it fully, and that we express it in a way that is channeled, that is controlled to an extent. But being able to freely speak of it at least alleviates the fact that you're not alone. Whatever end of the spectrum you're on, higher or lower frequency, you're not alone. There are many that have, there's just a clear separation. Maybe that's when the Moses card was coming up so much in this deck, this Egyptian deck, the Ramses deck. Maybe that's why over these following weeks, when that card has kept coming up, I don't know if it's to hand, that's maybe what the message has been. I kept saying there's more to this, there's more to this, because it kept coming up. Can't find it at hand right now. But that feels like the card today. That was the warning of today. Not the warning, but the observation of today. I can't find it, sorry. That he separated the waters. That there was a line in between, a barrier in between where they could walk through. And so it's difficult to imagine that there's much of a grey area. It feels black and white. And so it's difficult on either side right now. On the bottom of the deck, we've got a reverse high priestess. And so again, this speaks of, you know, prejudices. It speaks of hysteria. And so that goes with the Fool in the card reversed for me at the start of the reading. The delirium. You know, some people are losing their shit today. And that's in the powers that be, because certain chess moves have been made. And who knows how that is going to turn out. And below, you know, that there's people drinking a lot more, people taking a lot more substances, people struggling to channel their emotions washing over them. So it's a hard day. So the main advice is, if you're in your lower frequencies, try to raise them. Do whatever you can, do whatever works to raise them. If you don't want to, then that is your choice. People in the higher frequency, you know, it's not, you've got to be discerning, and it is not cruel to also reserve your energy, because there's a lot of people in the higher frequency that will be working super hard for people in the lower frequency that haven't made the choice to even want to be in a higher frequency. And if they haven't made the choice, no matter how powerful you are, no matter how high frequency you are, you cannot make them raise their frequency. You can be there in support, but you can't do it for them. It's their energy source within. And so be discerning for yourself as to how much you can help. Help, of course, but how much. Make sure you're taking the time out to have those baths that are with candles, with meditation. Have those times that you can connect with self, replenish your energy stock, eat well, sleep well. Do all of the things you know that helped you raise your frequency for yourself in the first place, because we can't do it for other people. And so if they haven't made the choice to try, then you cannot make that choice for them. And I think that's an important message. It sounds real harsh, I know, to a lot of people, but I think it's an important message because it is wisdom in that, you know, we have to use our energy like a currency. We have to use it like the life source that it is. It's precious. And so to waste anything that is precious is a waste. And I'm not saying it's a waste helping people, but it's a waste to put so much energy store into trying to do some kind of energy transplant on somebody else that will reject the transplant. They don't want it right now. They haven't chosen that right now, because you'll end up transplanting too much of your own energy and leaking out, as we would in the physical. We can't supply an endless amount of blood in one session to save someone's life. We all have to contribute a little bit. We all have to donate a bag here and there. So I hope that analogy makes sense. I know it sounds real harsh. I know it sounds really intense. And the energy's taken me back a bit today. And so it's a powerful day. So much love, be balanced and be whole. Keep yourself whole. And a big, big, big happy birthday to my friend, my girl, my shield maiden. She's having a happy birthday today, and I love her very, very much. So please send my friend happy birthday vibes so that she may feel them from all over the world. Much love, be balanced and be whole. Mwah.